whatever.
You know, a lot of combatants, you know, week to week, you know, a lot of big matches last week, you know,
Yeah.
for you know, there was the weekend collision. We both watched the show, collided as they say, you know. Went out here watch AEW Dynamite. There was a lot on Dynamite to talk about this week, but I figure we jumped straight to Saturday because that was the biggest thing of the weekend. Kenny Omega taking on MJF, challenging for the AEW World Title. In the main event of Collision, turned out to be it went 30 minutes. This is a match got a great reception to this match. MJF ended up getting the win fairly clean. You know, with some interference, kind of like no one physically interfered as a distraction. Like I think this feels like MJF's like biggest signature win yet. Everything else pretty much has involved hitting somebody with a ring, bashing them with some foreign object after they wrestled for an hour, or or beating people that aren't really top guys. So this whole thing, I think, this was an excellent match. I would say, and it like they there was a lot of like debate on this thing of should they even be doing this match on this stage at all at this point because of the lack of seemingly lack of pre-planning, blowing it off on Collision of all places, and then not using it for like being protected as long as that match is protected, and then just kind of throwing it out there. But they did a 30-minute match, and like for the most part, like it was like 95% like a real match, like, and then like 5% bullshit. Like I didn't expect the match to feel like as definitive and like as clean as it was. It was like, yeah, Callis came out, distracted him. MJF was dead to rights. He was gonna get the One Wing Angel, but again, Don Callis is showing up to ruin Kenny Omega's life. I'm at the point now where I have usually like I see the Kenny and Don thing, I'm just like, oh, all right, cool, it's the angle they're doing it. But now I'm starting to get to it's time to bust this fuck nigga head to the white meat. Like come on, like viscerally. So like I know if I'm feeling like this, I can imagine like your average fan like really at this point wants to start seeing Kenny Omega whoop the Don Callis family's ass. So but yeah, I loved the match. I thought it was great. I was like, man, if MJF wrestled like this, like most of the time, I wouldn't have half of the issues, like doing the bullshit and like the meme wrestling and all that stuff. Like he did his kangaroo kick and stuff like that. But for the most part, this was like a serious style match. So Kenny Omega would not have it otherwise. He refused to let MJF drag him down. So like I thought this was an excellent match. I would probably go 4 3/4 on it.
Yeah, I think I didn't think about a rating until I think yesterday, but yeah, that's probably what I go 4 3/4. For me, this is the part of why like we get frustrated with MJF when he doesn't do what we think is his best work, because we know what he's capable of, and he's done it time and time again in his brief career on national television. When he's wrestling his counterparts like the other pillars, when he's wrestling top dogs like CM Punk at the time, like Danielson, like Adam Cole, like this Omega match, and it was awesome. Like he stood in the pain, did all the shit that he claims he doesn't want to do or didn't want to do, and doesn't it does the whole troll thing with New Japan or whatever else. He went out there and had a match, a Kenny Omega match, and it was awesome. And small part aside with the Callis interference, where I saw that coming. I thought this match was great. Like, I mean, I just knew that I didn't know that the Kenny Omega response to the reverse Hurricanrana was going to be a reverse Hurricanrana, but I knew the reverse Hurricanrana spot was coming. I still think that MJF, for as much as it annoys me that he does the whole thing where he's an old school wrestler and then proceeds to jump around the fucking gym and do these stupid ass spots for everybody else, even though he claims he doesn't do it. He still gets a lot of mileage out of the part where like he doesn't do that stuff. So when he does do it, it still catches people off guard. And I'm just like, I've seen you flip that before. I've seen you do topes before.
Kenny saved that man's life on that Fosbury flop.
Yeah, that was bad. That was real bad. That was not quite the AJ Styles Fosbury flop at all. And he was off center. Off axis. Actually, that's the word. But it was a lot more QT Marshall than it was AJ Styles or Will Ospreay or Pac. But yeah, great match as you mentioned. He set in the pain and ate those V triggers, you know, and it was fun. It was super fun and great match. It's one of my favorite matches in AEW this year. It's one of my favorite matches in general in the whole world this year. And yeah, like if you ask me from a minute per minute pacing situation, I think this is quite possibly my favorite MJF match. Like, don't get me wrong, I thought that like the dog collar match for a lot of people was great. I thought that the first match in Chicago where he beat CM Punk was great. It just wasn't my cup of tea. I thought the Danielson match, the last 20 minutes of that match were special. The first 40 minutes didn't grab me in that way. Or last 20 minutes in overtime. But that didn't grab me in that way because of the pacing. This match gave me, and I also thought the Cole match that first teased them, going into Wembley when they had that 30-minute time limit draw. I thought that match was great too. That's probably my second favorite MJF match. But this was great. It was great, and should we start treating Kenny Omega like we treat LeBron, or like any sliver of greatness? Anytime he does greatness, we now talk about this is like year 21. Like, look, man, he's almost 40 now. Like, we can't be expecting this man to come out here and do this. Looking to reduce schedule. He just kind of keep bullets in the chamber just for us to come out every so often. He can go out here and do this for us. We should appreciate this. We should appreciate greatness.
I think few things are starting to bother me more than maybe it's some of it's storytelling, maybe some of it is people running with it, is like the broken down Kenny Omega can barely stand and do this. I'm like, bro, when all you still doing is putting out greatness, I just don't buy into the I'm so broke up thing. It's like it's the Hiroshi Tanahashi shit, like to where this man's falling apart or whatever, like in like 5-6 years ago or whatever. But like it's like, yo, talking about how washed up you are. It's like, you're not washed. Stop. Like stop this. Like if you were washed, like maybe it's better that he does it while he's not actually washed. But I'm just like, all right, because then people start like believing that shit, like yeah, he really broke up. I'm like, all right, man, stop this. Like, this nigga is who he has been. He is the cleaner, and that's just no shock to me. Like, when he rolls out and is great, it's like, I would just like people to recognize, just like, hey, it's always been like this. And if you just getting on board now, it's not too late. It's not too late for you to, come to the real and understand what this has been since 2016.
At the latest.
Yeah. Like, it's not too late to come join up, but god damn, like look at the stuff you missed. If you like this, we should go do this. Did you know that this was I think the last time I saw this on Twitter, someone had said this match had a 9.47 rating on Cage Match, right?
That sounds too high off initial voting, but you know how that is sometimes when it comes to like the Dynamite, like or the AEW matches. Sometimes like people go over the board for them sometimes. So yeah,
happens with MJF sometimes too. But
especially MJF, because people be like, we believe in him. He finally gives us the one, like similar to the the dog collar match or the Iron Man match. Yeah,
it's now at a 9.35. Okay, that 9.47 when I originally saw that, that's the 15th highest Kenny Omega match on Cage Match. Like, this is child's play. This is common practice for this man. Someone also put another screenshot out. I think it was like, of the 10 highest rated matches on Cage Match, Kenny Omega's in 5 of them. What are we like? Yo, like, that's special, man. So like, I'm glad MJF walked in the ring and didn't fuck around and bullshit. And as far as like, how they actually did the match, and you know how I said earlier, I felt like this was like actually the definitive win that crowned him as the top person now.
Even more so than Danielson.
Yeah, because like even at the end of the Danielson thing, it was like the huge element of cheating from his part with the ring, also with the fire extinguisher and all that, and then the Moxley thing was a total like shambolic charade. I'm not crowning you the boss for beating Adam Cole of all people. Like no, like the pillars, no, like
right,
Ricky Starks, no, like Samoa Joe, no, sorry, like the person like he's like.
You got to either beat Moxley or Omega.
Yeah, it's like, it felt like slightly a changing of the guard a little bit. Like, and it was like, man, like I feel like this was, like obviously they did the Callis thing. I'm not taking that away, but you find me a more definitive win for MJF in the history of this company. Like he never beat Jericho like this.
One you really have would be like the Cole match in Wembley. That would be it. Because Adam Cole was one taking all shortcuts and he didn't.
Yeah, and that's
like literally it. Like he only has like, and even this by this standard, like by the standards of MJF, this is like one of the cleaner matches you're ever going to see. Because like that's the thing that bothers me with him is like he has this fucking insistence on never having beat anybody clean and never beating anybody clean. Meaning like the bell rings, there's nobody in there's no foreign objects, there's no shortcuts taken that leads to near falls and that kind of shit, and someone's left, behind in the race, if you will, because of that, and it can never catch up. It's always that kind of shit, that element in his matches. This is about as clean as you get. The only one that's cleaner is really the Adam Cole Wembley match, from his perspective, because Cole cheated up and down, but at least the right person won it, didn't cheat.
But yeah, it's like it seems like this is like the definitive defense, I'd say, and this is like when I saw this, I was like, yo, I don't think he's losing the belt anytime soon. At least it felt that way or whatever. I'm privy to a couple of things, but I don't know exactly where they're going. But they've got 2 pay-per-views before the end of the year. There's a lot of opponents circling. Of course, Wardlow, Samoa Joe is around. Jay White is around, and I feel bad for Jay White. Once again, you got to follow Kenny Omega. The lesson is always going back to 2018. Jay White is not Kenny Omega. There are a lot of people that still need to learn this lesson, that have fought this, that have denied this through Wrestle Kingdom this year, through the last 4 or 5 years of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And they're going to learn again. But, yeah, like, one would think MJF's wrapping it up soon, but this feels like they've dropped a substantial investment in him. Brewhaven had a good question here, and he says, "What would you say is Kenny Omega's defining New Japan match and his defining AEW match?"
Like to the general master, me personally.
I guess to you.
The defining New Japan match for me would be the 2017 G1 final against Naito, which I think is the 3rd greatest match I've ever seen. Like he put Naito over. The match is incredible, incredibly violent. It's literally as good as anything I've ever seen. Well, except for 1 in 4 of Okada Omega.
I'm still gonna go with Wrestle Kingdom 11. The first Okada Omega, and it was like this to me. He was already a superstar like that. Like it was already like I watched the G1 the previous year. I was already like kind of like headed that way, like for my fandom, and then it was just like people couldn't stop talking about this guy, and this was like the first of that, and that's happened since then. A lot of big matches in like. No matter who's in there with him, whether it's Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Chris Jericho, it's like you leave talking about like the performance Kenny Omega gave, whether he won or lost or whatever. And it was like that set off like just, and I don't think you can take away from anything from, 6 9 18
Right.
of the Okada Omega 4.
Right.
And, obviously I think you're arguing either one or two, but that felt like the culmination of a journey. It felt like all the roots were planted in that Wrestle Kingdom match to
Mm-hmm.
be like something that New Japan Pro Wrestling hadn't had in a long time. That the world of wrestling didn't really have at the time, because it was like, Danielson's in injury exile,
Right.
CM Punk is gone, and
Yep.
AJ Styles is in WWE at this point, but he's in WWE at this point, so like he's slowly headed towards the
He's in WWE, and they made him the man on the B show.
yeah. So it's like, yo, who's next or whatever,
And
like
Gargano hadn't rose up yet, really, in
right.
that way as a single.
And,
Yeah.
and it's like, yo, there's this whole ecosystem, and I think a lot of people followed, Kenny into, appreciating the greatness of a lot of those guys, like in
Yeah.
New Japan. So, as far as AEW goes, I think that one's a little tougher.
Real quick before you get to that, I think the thing for me when I mentioned the Naito G1 match from 2017 was just like, it was an ongoing story of the journey of both of them to eventually be the person the race to chase to knock off Okada. They both were chasing after it. And it was like, very similar to when we talk about like so much of like last year with Tam and Julia, is like the mountaintop is Shuri, the mountaintop is Okada. One of these two is going to be the one to topple them, and they got to go through each other to get the right to be the person to do it. And one of them may beat the other to get there, and the other one may fail when they finally get to get to the summit and get knocked back off and have to go again. But it's going to be one of them two, and that was a lot of the online stuff between Naito and Okada, Naito and Omega fans. Whatever, it was like they knew they didn't. I don't necessarily knew they had it verbalized or verbalized it like that's what was up. That was really the chase, was who's going to knock off Okada, but that's what it was back then when everybody was sniping at each other at that time. So yeah, like for me, it was like Omega had this incredible year. He burst onto the scene in 2017 in that way with that match, and then it's like he goes to that G1. He's awesome in it, of course. Naito's awesome in the G1. Then they have that match. It was like one of them's going to whoever wins is going to the Dome, and they're probably going to beat Naito. Or sorry, they're probably going to beat Okada. That didn't happen. Ended up going the other way, but it was still like a great swerve in that way of like, just because doesn't mean you're going to, just because you win this G1 doesn't mean you're guaranteed it, and it ended up being a bigger thrill for both of them to eventually topple Okada later, actually. So yeah.
As far as AEW, I'm gonna say, the 30-minute draw with Bryan Danielson, it just felt like the peak of the company, honestly. And it was like it doesn't get any bigger and better than this. Like as far as like when that bell pop, when it comes, you're seeing the Danielson give that I just finished smoking this huge blunt smile that he gives, and then Kenny trying to stay in character to I don't give a shit. Like you in here with me now, and then it's I would definitely say that, or the tag match. I still think the tag match, with the Bucks and Hangman Page as well. That is
for me, it's the tag match still, because that thing was just such great. It was such a great storyline that you could be on either side of. Because like, at that point, even then, I still didn't see the amount of people that gravitated and like the Hangman thing situation, never saying anything from his perspective, and I was just like, I don't get it. I know that but I see that like Matt's cooking this man, right? And I see that like it looks like he wants to turn on Omega, even though Omega did nothing wrong, and I'm just finding that kind of just be strange, everything, and like what did Omega do? And I'm just like, but like you watch that match, you see it play out, and like the whole part where like him and Matt hate each other's guts, or have such detest each other in that way, and like you got Nick in Omega trying to like keep the peace, and then eventually like that piece got just broke up because it just turns nasty, and then it turns to one of the greatest matches I've ever seen, and like I just maybe that's too many elements involved to be clean in that kind of way for for the tag match or whatever, for it to be the definitive Omega match. But if you want to go with a singles, I'll probably say the Grand Slam match. Yeah.
And as far as MJF, like we had a question from Josh McLaughlin. He was saying, how long is it before MJF drops the belt at this rate? Like it's hard to predict all over again. There's been part of me that has been thinking, like, what if Tony Khan has gotten back to his original outline with the AEW Championship at this point?
Like if CM Punk never exists, you mean?
Correct. Like, and where was the belt going after MJF? Wardlow.
Yeah, it probably was in the plans, but it seems too shot. They got to heat him up, and obviously they're giving him a long track to catch back up or whatever. I would say the exit date needs to be by Revolution.
Yeah,
it could be before, but it needs to be by at least Revolution.
I find it really hard to picture him making it through the next two pay-per-views. It feels like Jay White had a chance before the Omega match, but I'm like, yo, if he's putting him over this clean, kind of to stamp him that much, to turn around and lose it right away would be shocking to me.
You know what it would be like? You remember when Mayu beats Shuri, then beats Takumi in like a 2 or 3 week span, and then like 3 weeks later after that she loses to Utami. It'd be one of those, like, you got your signified ace runs, definitive runs of this title reign that will be the ones that people point back to and everything, over like the level of wrestler and also the level of quality of match. And then weeks later it's just off you. So it was hard so it was kind of like, I don't think they're going to do that. And then they did it. Ultimately worked out because of the time he had an incredible run. But I mean, obviously Jay White's capable, but it's like, you just had the signature win of the late part of this run. I probably would have felt better. I probably would feel better for Jay White if that had been like the December pay-per-view they're doing. I would feel better for it.
So think about this though, and I just kind of got a kind of a, I don't know, like a realization. Like I saw a lot of people like saying, no, man, he got surgery October 12th. It's not a work. So about Cole, by the way. So there were a lot of people upset and perturbed that he was like, yeah, man, like, why does MJF have so many opponents? Like, why are there so many people going after him and all that? I'm like, well, think about it now. Now we've got Full Gear, we got Winners coming, and then we got World's End. So all within like 3 huge shows within maybe like a 90-day, like a 60-day span, if that.
People are complaining about this?
Absolutely. Just so much their heads are exploding like that. More than like one person wants to fight the world champion. Especially like what we've had to deal with the last 2 months. Like, most of these people making these complaints, like, they're used to like the world champion disappearing for like an entire quarter of the year. So like, I really don't want to hear that shit. But like, they like, I think they have a lot of big shows coming, and some of these people are beatable, some of these people are not. And I think one of them is bound to surprise us. I feel like it. I don't know. Like I feel like, Cole he's an option if he can get healthy, right? But they've got this whole whodunit devil storyline and all that. Can I be the first one to say, I don't give a fuck who the devil is? Just unmask. I'm not here for the whodunit. I don't care.
It's been so many weeks now at this point. It's like, it's lost all steam for that.